it's nice to have 4 men, a whole 4 men on here.
Aren't you the lucky one, Sherry Ann?
Well, we're live. We're live on Facebook, people, so we can behave now, right? Hello, people. Hello, my lovely followers that follow every week. Thank you very much for tuning in. You know, I told you last week I wanted to talk about relationships. I really did, because I'm sick and tired of my inbox being about, Sherry, why don't you do something? You did something a couple of weeks ago about relationships, and it was really good, but you only had 1 man on there. Bring on some more so we can terrorize them. So I reached out and I asked the people on here, on Facebook, on my Facebook. Lovely, lovely people. I've got thousands of them, but you only see about 500, but whatever. And I decided that I'm going to ask them some nice questions. And also I want you guys to ask the questions as well, you know, you out there, my followers, because it's not all about me. You asked me to do this for you and I'm doing it. So let me introduce my guests. All of them, I've only known one of them before, which is Garth, but all the other 3 I haven't met. So you lovely men, can you introduce yourself, starting with Mark, because he was the first one in the room. Mark?
Yeah, so my name is Mark Harris, and I'm a forgiveness life coach. Really and truly, I've been through a lot of trials and tribulations in life, and I've had to learn the art of forgiving, and basically just going through a certain understanding within life. And with actually learning certain things and just going on a journey, it's just helped me to understand that in a way there was nothing to forgive, because this is what's created me and made me who I am today. So that's what I do. I help people see things that they don't see, and I just take them on a journey so that they can find themselves too.
I like that. Find yourself. I might give you a call. Okay, and then the next person is Garth. Hello, Garth, Trini Garth.
What's going on? So I like that Mark mentioned the journey. So my name is Garth Voisin. I am the author of The Journey Continues to Evolve, where we share the journey to help others who are on a journey by themselves or their own personal journeys, to help them to either share their own experiences or learn from the experiences of others. I also am the founder of the Dear Men Project, which is a online, I would say not just blog, I would say it'd be a resource for men to actually go to and read about experiences or read about a different perception, or a perception that's not really shared as much. Definitely glad to be on here with everybody. The relationship aspect of it, as a coach myself, is very, very touchy at this moment, as per pandemic. So I'm really interested to hear what everyone has to say today.
I know. I can't wait to find out. Nigel.
Hi, my name's Nigel Beckles. I'm the author of the book, How to Avoid Making the Big Relationship Mistakes. Got another book coming out this year about abusive relationships. I'm also a certified relationship coach, and I provide online support for people who have been victims or survivors of abusive relationships, and I have a Facebook group of 21,000 plus members.
That's not much, is it?
No, not really.
Oh, that's really good, Nigel. Of course, you interviewed the one and only Ann Dixon. So, hey, I have to give myself a little props. And then now Kelvin. Hi, Kelvin.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Sherry. I am Kelvin Troy Johnson. I'm a speaker, trainer, and author, as well as the creator of the YouTube channel, Secrets of the Mind of a Man, where I share how men think when it comes to dating, relationships, and love. And I also do life and love coaching as well. And so I'm glad to be here, ready to rock. Let's do it.
I like how you said that. Ready to rock. Well, we can start by rocking with the one that's everybody shared. I'm sick and tired of it. It's in my Facebook, it's in my WhatsApp, it's in everywhere. That thing called entanglement.
Yes.
Entanglement, that new word, it's like we was called that unfaithful Jada, but Jada calls it entanglement. So now we've got a new word out there. I don't know if have all of you seen that, the video?
No.
That's no good.
No,
Basically,
I've seen
Jada,
Listen, I made it a point this morning. I've been trying to avoid it because I kept seeing it, and I was trying to let my mind just rest for the weekend. But I knew I was going to be on this call, so I intentionally watched it this morning. I did my homework, and I knew it was coming.
well,
See, for myself, sorry, Sherry, and for myself personally, I haven't actually looked at it. Didn't even actually know that there was anything going on until my wife said to me. And the more I think about it is, do I really want to be entangled in Will Smith's and Jada Pinkett's relationship? No, I don't.
okay, but it's not just about them, is it? It's about the
No, it's much bigger.
The story, isn't it? It's the story of a man and a woman having a woman having an affair. Let's put it rightly, because it's not a man for a change. I don't think that he had one, but
that sounds a bit hard.
Jada having an affair, right? And Will having to talk about it because, for a change, the whistleblower is a man who's very upset and decided he was going to talk about it, which to me seems not very not very nice. I didn't think that men do that, but he did. And he basically talked about the fact that him and Jada had a little ting, and it wasn't a little thing because he was quite. His name is August, by the way. I don't understand that kind of name, but basically he had an affair with Jada when she and Will were going through a hard time, which is the same as any other relationship. But he's decided to talk about it, and now everybody wants to say, well, geez, we thought they were the happy couple. But doesn't that just happen in relationships in general? In general, when people go through a hard time and people find out that they've broken up or that they weren't so much of the happy couple, that people talk about it. It's no different to anybody else. Am I right or wrong?
Sherry, could I say something on this one? I too, as like Mark, did not really want to find out anything. I've watched that relationship for a while now and never was a big fan of it, if I'm being totally transparent. Entanglement, I've created my own meaning for entanglement. It's a narcissistic explanation for cheating. It has no gender but an agenda. This conversation that they broadcasted, it has been happening for a while, and the fact that it seems more social media based than anything else. And with the guy, blowing the whistle on it and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Sometimes I feel as though people do a lot of things just for the exposure of it. And my thing would be, what is the lesson? Like, what is the lesson from this all? Like, what are you guys teaching us? Like, beside the word entanglement, which I've had to make my own definition of, like, what are we learning from this experience that you shared with millions of people?
Well, why did they do it? Why did they do it? Is my thing. Well,
the thing is as well, and I'd like to add to that, G, is that the question would be is how I see it is, what are we choosing to be entangled into? Because we're judging a situation. We don't know. I don't live with Will Smith. I don't live with Jada Pinkett. But then that's taking me away from my relationship. My relationship with me.
But we're nosy. We're nosy. We need to know.
I was going to say that. Sherry, listen, we can try to beat around that bush if we want to. The bottom line is, when you're a celebrity, you don't get to like back into a corner and say, no, stay out of my business. No, you're a celebrity. We're in your business. We have made you a celebrity. So therefore, we have the right to know what's going on. And especially when it hits the screen, once it hits the screen, we have a right to be all in it. And like they're not private citizens. They are public figures. And we have that right to know what is going on, especially when it comes to us. We don't have the right to pry through their bushes and be looking through their window. We don't have that right. But once it hits the net, we have a right to have the conversation about the people that we put up on a pedestal. We put them up on a pedestal, right? So now we get the opportunity, and they took the opportunity. They took the place on the pedestal that we put them on, and so now we get to have the conversation about the thing that now is on the pedestal. So here we are.
Yeah, I hear that. The thing what I'd like to add to that though is that we've put them on the, as you say, we've put them on the pedestal, which I never knew I did, but you just in general. But the thing is that to me, it's like I'm getting crowded around in a load of different noises and creating a load of different noises in my head that I don't need to be involved into. That's for me personally. That's me personally. And I think it can take us away from...
If you're reading the newspaper, you would just flick over that story, right?
Well, I wouldn't even, do you know what? Might see it, someone might share their opinion, and everybody's opinion is valid. But then when you ask yourself the question, what am I running from to be entangled into? Then that's up for debate for me.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Marilyn Devonish on Facebook Live says, I agree, it's none of my business, and they put it into the public domain as a topic of conversation. That's why we're talking about it. Really, most people would say ignore it. But maybe that's what most of us do. But in real life, let's get real now. Let's go into real life. In real life, when there's stuff going on in the family or your friend and a husband break up, who ignores it? They talk about it on the phone.
It's juicy. It's really juicy. That's what happened. Yeah.
It's like, I thought that, oh my God, I thought they were like stuck together for days. And then all of a sudden you find out that they were living apart for that, all the different things. I know it's not nice, but that's what you do.
Sherry, that's one of the things, that's one of the lessons that we get from this. See, this thing isn't just about Will and Jada and cheating and that sort of thing. There's a lot of lessons around this whole conversation. And one is the people that we put up as idols and people that we look up to. Oh, they've got the perfect relationship goals and all of this. Look, this was 4 years ago, and people were saying that they were breaking up 4 years ago, and they were like, oh no, that's not true. That's not true. They were waving off those rumors. And we find out it really was true.
Was true. So you were lying to us. So we've got the excuse now to take you apart. That's what we said. Come on, Kevin, me and you're gonna rock with that one. Yes. Okay, let's get on to real lives. Real normal everyday people. Why can't some men be faithful?
Well, that doesn't just apply to men, but going back to the entanglement new term that's flying around, it's just another term for having an affair and not being able to control your genitalia, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. And also, it seems to me that Will and Jada are getting an awful lot of free publicity.
Smart.
So it could be a very smart PR move, in fact.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah. True. Okay, so move on to the one that I moved on to. Why can't men be faithful? Is why I'm not saying that then they can't. Somebody's asked that question. I'm asking for them.
Well, it's not only men who are unfaithful, obviously.
More than.
But in terms of men, well, at the end of the day, not all men are unfaithful, but many are, and they can be motivated by different things. They can be motivated by the sexual conquest. They may have a compulsive urge to cheat, to feed their ego.
Yeah.
They might just not be happy in the relationship they're in and not man enough to just say, look, I'm finished with this, let me move on and try something else. So there's a variety of reasons why men cheat.
No, but they cheat within relationships. Don't be clever.
No, I said there's a variety. No, I said there's a variety of reasons why men cheat. There's nothing clever about that. That's just a statement of fact.
Yeah. Well, okay. So why can't they then have? No, I'm going to take that question round to the others because I don't want to get away with Nigel just making me explode a little bit. Mark, why? There must be a reason.
Well, personally, so I've been married for 22 years. Never cheated on my wife at all. Thank God, I'm so blessed.
Thank God, because we'll find out now.
What I would say is that, and I don't know if this is for everybody, but I believe that men cheat because they're looking for something outside themselves. They're looking for love outside themselves. They don't know how to love theirself. If they understood how to deal with their own emotions in an understandable way, because we're never taught how to deal with the stuff that we go through as men, as black men on that. So if we understood, then we'd love ourselves. And I think that what happens is a lot of men try to find love outside of them, not knowing love what's inside.
Right, yeah.
And the relationship starts inside. You can't find the love outside. So that's how I see it. So that's why men cheat. Because if you love somebody, or if you love the first woman you fall in love with is your mum. Yes. And as long as your mum is looking after you and giving, even if she's treating you a certain way, you love your mother. Yeah. And that's because you've got that bond with your mother. But then what happens is that other voices come into play, friends tell you different things, and then you go through so many different emotions, not understanding that the only love that is real to you is within, because everything starts from within inside. There's nothing to see outside. Because as soon as we start looking outside for love, if it's not the way we think or expect it to be, then that's where the problem starts lying. And that's what makes men cheat. For me.
I got a different answer, Sherry.
Right, Kelvin.
All right. So my background is in working with men and working with boys. I work with men and boys for over 15 years as a men's counselor, working with boys, men. I've heard all the secrets, all the reasons, and I can bring it up to two things. The reason men cheat. Men cheat for two reasons. One is to be king. Every man wants to be king. Yeah. He wants to be the one who he wants to be the top dog. He needs that ego feed, right? To be seen as the man. Every man wants to be the man, right? And so there's nothing that makes a man feel like the man like another woman.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so and I believe that the other thing is just the physical nature of conquering. Men want to be looked at as the man, and he wants to conquer. And if you look at the nature of how we have sex, it's a man in the conquering position.
Yes.
And he enjoys that. And so you know what? I guess both of those come back to ego. Is how a woman makes a man feel. And he's convinced by how she makes him feel, and boom, there we go. That's how it goes, And you know what? And it's funny because it's the same thing Jada said. But when Jada said it, y'all let her skirt all the way around that, oh, they have such a beautiful relationship. That's essentially what she just said. is that he gave her a feeling, made her feel alive. Well, that's the same thing I just said about
Kelvin.
why men do what they do.
Kelvin,
so, same thing.
I agree with you too, Kelvin. But Mark, I also agree with you. See, the different perspectives when it comes to why men cheat about stuff. So this is one of the reasons why the Demand Project thing came up for me personally. Being through different relationships and trying to figure out, well, what's going on with me on the inside, me, right? So Mark, I think that's why I agree with you. And Kelvin, I want to be the man. I want to conquer. Yeah, I want to conquer villages. You know, like back in the day, I get that. You know,
Yes.
but I also see where a lot of it is what we are, what environments we come from. A lot of it is what the environment teaches us, what we grow up seeing that we replicate and duplicate and copy. That's part of it. Another part of it is trying to find what we want in different people to make them one person. And I think for me, I went through the phase where I looked at different people and said, I like this, and I like this, and I like that, and I like this. And they all made into one, like Transformers. They all made one person somehow in my mind, mentally. It's kind of jacked up, but in my mind, it did make sense. Your perspective of what you've seen in your past, society's expectation of a man. And this is why I feel like when we talk about relationships, we could talk about male and female relationships every single day if we want to. But what we're not talking about, or what we're not communicating effectively about, because we communicate, but not effectively enough about, is what's the mentality of a man? What's making him feel the way he's feeling? And recently I wrote something about if you don't feed his ego, somebody else will. It's true. Because if you don't feed my ego, and I realize that I can't get that from you, guess what? That girl that I met at Walmart when I was in the line, she could feed my ego. Just by telling me I smell. You know, because this is what the conversation is about.
You're keeping it real, eh?
Yeah. The conversation is about this. And I have waited for a while before I went live and did all this fancy stuff and go on TikTok and all that stuff, because there's nothing there was educational. But this, I think, is a good idea to bring people together who have experience and talk about the situation. And like I'm telling you, Kelvin, I agree with you. If you don't feed my ego, I'm going to look for somebody that does. So the men have to also be mature enough to understand that sometimes it's not only about the ego, and women have to understand what we need as men. But if we don't communicate this effectively, nobody knows except us, and it remains here. So when we talk about cheating and being unfaithful, women cheat all the time in their minds. And it's not a physical thing. So and you know it's true, Sherry. You know that's true, but we don't talk about that because it's not a physical, you got caught. Shaggy said it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
But it wasn't me. But mentally, there's an extension of caring and empathy and love for other people. And we don't see that as cheating. But once physical comes into it, we're like, okay, but to me, physical is the last straw. Because if I'm telling you my problems and telling you how I feel about stuff, and I'm outside of my relationship to do so, it should be considered the same thing. But the physical is what we as a society deem it as in terms of cheating or not cheating. So back to the answer to the question of what makes a man faithful, it's going to take more than this 45 minutes to have that conversation if we're going to be real about it. But there are pieces.
Come back, innit? We'll have to come
back.
Yeah,
we have to come back. But there's pieces that I think we should put together. And one of it is communicating effectively how you feel about certain things and what it is you want out of a relationship. What's your expectation out of this?
Yeah, and maybe that's where I'm going with that, expectations. When I speak to women, I always say, why do you go into a relationship without a shopping list? And that sounds a bit weird when you say it that way. But you don't know this about him, you don't know that about him, you don't know what he likes, you don't know what's his sexual fantasies. All these things make up a relationship. It's not just about sex. Well, that helps, because if that ain't working, the whole story broke up, right? But what I'm saying is that you should know more about the person other than just sex. What do you say, Mark?
I think personally, it all boils down to judgment. Nobody wants to be judged. If I turn around and told you that I slept with 100 women, you're going to say that I'm a player.
You're dirty.
You might use that term too.
I'm real. I don't know if
that's the beauty of it.
But I'm real.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's the thing. It's just all boils down to judgment. And that judgment can be placed in anyway. And I think that what I would say, if anything, I speak for me as a man. I wouldn't sit down and turn around and tell my wife all the women who I've slept with.
Yes.
Or all the special positions that I've done or where I've done it and all that lot. Because one, it's hurting her. Two, I'm feeding my own ego. And three, she's going to judge me on that. Yes. And that judgment, what she's going to judge me on, is going to affect my relationship with her.
But maybe she expects you to have done a bit of experimenting before you settled, you know what I mean? So that you've quenched your thirst. Am I not right about that, ladies? Come on, write in the thing and tell me. Can I read some of
you got a lot of comments in there, Sherry.
Yeah, and you guys can take some, you know, if you feel that you want to, you know. Someone's got their
I'm not even on Facebook.
Have a look at questions. Marilyn says, Sherry, I agree. I've been teaching the relationship shopping list for 20 years. So it's not me, I'm not odd. When done right, it works. Preach. Yes, I'm preaching. Junette says, oh, where's he gone? Oh my goodness, this is too much. You don't have to go outside. I presume she means your circumstances, because she says to explain your feelings. I don't know what you mean by that, Jeanette. Come on, re-explain. Not sure I want to hear that my man, this is another comment, not sure I want to hear that my man has had 1,000 women. Why? You know, what do you want to do? Tell him to stop.
Me personally, as a man, I wouldn't want to know that my woman's had 1,000 men.
Precisely.
See, so I wouldn't want to know that.
The other way around, though. Men, women.
Well, relationships work both ways. It's not just one way. A relationship, you know, we're talking about relationships, but it's as if a relationship's from a woman's perspective. Men have things what go on for themselves as well, and men do seek relationships too. We want to be some men want to be in a relationship. They want to find that decent woman out there. But personally, for me, I wouldn't want to know if my woman slept with 1,000 men, because that means that I'm going to judge her on that.
Okay. What do you think,
Kelvin, say it. Kelvin.
You saying for you, God?
Kelvin, say it. He's about to say something. Say it, man.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking about what he just said, as it relates to what Jada said. You know, and as Will's sitting there listening to his wife describe her unhappiness, and this whole conversation, and you know, look. I'm sorry, Sherry Ann, we can't get past this whole conversation that's going on, because I know that if a man was having that conversation with a woman, that he was so unhappy and was so broken and was so sick, and he looked over at his son's, let's call it now, his daughter's friend who's staying in the house with them, and she's sick. Now you guys know sick meant that he was recovering from drugs. He was a drug addict, and he was recovering from drugs. So he was there and they were helping him. And if it was Will who went over there and began this affair because he felt broken inside over and had this affair with his daughter's friend, like there's no amount of hatred that would have been held back against him for this same kind of conversation. So
and not just that, she said in her thing, she said, I wanted to feel good. Like she said, I wanted to feel good. So if somebody came to me and said to me, hey, why did you do that? And I said, hey, I just wanted to feel good.
I wanted to feel good.
That's good enough. That's good enough for me. Like that should be fine. Because the idea of her leaving and anybody leaving, it's actually the truth. To feel good, like that's why they left. They want
right.
But when you say it openly, again, because we're not used to communicating these things effectively. When we say it openly, it comes across bad. But the idea is, if you're with somebody for years, it could be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 23 years, Mark, great job, good job, Mark. I don't know, you know, I'm saying like the reason why yours work and some people relationship doesn't, like theirs don't, is because they're not feeling good. The person is not helping them to feel good because, like Sherry, like you said, they don't know what the experience is. They don't know what is on the list. So they're like, well, I'm trying these different things, and you stay in silent.
Yeah.
You know, you stay in silence. So you're not saying anything back, and they just want to feel good. Like why would you be with somebody who doesn't make you feel good? How does that make sense?
Well,
we're gonna go to that next, but hey, yeah, you got me stunned there for a minute. I have to think about my question.
That was excellent, brother.
Yeah,
Excellent point.
This is what we're here for.
Yeah, they're antagonizing me. Somebody says, Jan from Wales says, can we hear from Nigel, please? He's a very good listener.
Oh, I like to listen. Oh, where do I start? In terms of what Sharon said about shopping list, well, I actually mentioned that concept in my book, because at the end of the day, it's no point going out there if you're single and on the dating scene. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're probably going to come home with something you don't want. That's why people write shopping lists, to make sure that they come home with what they went out for. The same thing as in business. In business, you have a term called due diligence. So when you conduct your due diligence, you're paying attention to what you want, what your expectations are. So a lot of people fall into relationships, and at the end of the day, the word falling implies an accident. You fell into something. Well, that's not a really good way to start any type of relationship, whether that be business or that be love at the end of the day.
Well, Jeanette says, please remember, you don't come into a relationship to feel good. You should always feel good, which is what Mark was talking about. It's the internal side of it. You get into a relationship to do better for yourself and your spouse.
Wrong.
Kelvin, go first. Kelvin, go first.
Wrong. Okay, so listen, the only real reason to get into a relationship is to multiply goodness and happiness in your life. Yes, you should come in happy, right? But the person who you come into a relationship with should multiply that happiness, right? And if not, why else what else are they there for? Like, what else is the person in your life for if you aren't if they aren't multiplying goodness? There's a scripture that I always lean on, and people won't see it this way, but there's one that said one could chase 1,000 and two could put 10,000 to flight, which means literally I can do great by myself, right? But having the right partner in my life means that I can do 10 times more than I could by myself. So my life should get 10 times better results out of my life, having the right partner in my life, multiplying my life exponentially.
Well,
Sherry, taking it back to the feel good part of it, like, yeah. You know, and again, the feel good could be in quotation marks for the entire rest of the conversation, but let's take back to being complete. Like, so you have to come into something already complete. So I don't like people tell me that I complete them, because I should never complete you. You should be completed when I meet you, right?
Great.
The point that I'm making about the feel good part of it is just like Kelvin said. If I'm a driven, a focused individual, and I would like to know that the person that I'm with is the same way, or is very supportive of the way that I am, and I want to be able to support them as well, because they should, like I said, come in complete. Yeah, you can do so much more with the right partner in a lot of different ways. If you look at it from business, as in Nigel was talking about business earlier, if I was to start up a business and I have the right partners with me, we could be very successful. Whereas I could be successful to a point by myself. And if you look at a relationship does not always have to be a physical relationship or one that has to do with a man and woman. It could be just a general relationship between friends. And that's what people do. They confuse this relationship with this big word called emotion, right? So sometimes you got to be smart. Sometimes you have to be smart about who you get into a relationship with, business or otherwise, because it's about you being successful and them being successful and being successful as a group, and not just being successful up to the part where you're limited to, but beyond that. And that takes a good partner in any type of business or relationship. So when we talk about, the feel-good aspect of it, we talk about what are the different things that you expect from me when I come into this relationship. I open doors for women still. I still open doors. I opened the door for a woman in Atlanta 10 years ago. And she told me to my face, she said, I can open my own door. I closed my door and I drove.
She has issues. She has issues.
I closed my door and I drove off, right? Because it just didn't make sense to me. And it didn't make sense to me because, again, I lived in Atlanta for a little bit.
Hey, G, now you know most women in Atlanta are not that way. I'm in Atlanta. I'm gonna hold up for the Atlanta, for the ATL.
I used to live there, and that's what I said. It was a one-time thing. Don't worry about it. But what I'm saying is that we want as men. Mark touched on this earlier about our mothers, and I think for me, I know that I like people who want to take care of me because I take care of so many people in my little circle. I try my best to take care of people a lot, and I want somebody to take care of me as well when I'm tired. I'm hardly ever tired, but when I am tired, I would love somebody to take care of me. Like that's just to me, a man. If you look at where, like in relationships or with parents, they say, okay, well, the boy is mom's favorite, the girl is dad's favorite. This has been from where, I mean, it could be right or wrong, but for me, I know my mother, if something wants to go wrong, she's the first person I would want to call because she knows me and she wants to take care of me. So we look for that in different people. We look for people who could support us. We look for people who we can talk to, and they are, like Nigel, great listeners. We want people like that,
Yes,
yeah, and this is why I say, like, feel good can mean so many different things. So if they took it out of context, that's fine with me. But if you are in a relationship and you do not want to feel good when you're with that person, why are we there again? Like, what are we doing?
Right.
I want a relationship, in any relationship I'm in, when I was married, when I wasn't married, I want to look forward to going home to my partner at the end of a busy day. In fact, I don't even want to wait till I get home because I'm missing him in the middle of the day, right? And I'm calling him, if I'm talking to him, I'm telling him, make sure you're not late because I want you to be home. And he has to put that in his mindset, what he coming home for, right? But it's about that love and respect. And I'm trying to put that word in there, that respect of wanting to get there, wanting to hug, wanting to kiss, the smell, all those things to me make a relationship. They are on my tick box. Now, if they're not on my shopping list or tick box or whatever you want to call it, then what am I coming home to you for? When I open the door, you're going past, or you're not saying, hello, honey, I miss you, sweetie, honey, all the nicety, and they're asking me what is for dinner. I don't, that ain't my kind of relationship. So you have to know what you want. Where some women want these guys to be protectors. Am I right or wrong, ladies? You can put it in there. Some people like a guy, he goes out, he earns the food money, and he pays the bills, and that's good enough for them. That's not good enough for me. Sexiness for me comes within, from the person and from their brain right through. It's not just about the physical area, if you get what I mean. I'm going to pick on Nigel. Nigel, what do you think about that?
When you say there's certain things that you require in a relationship, like physical touch, etc. Well, the bottom line is men and women are built differently. So if you look at the science will tell you, well, women mostly have a lot of oxytocin. So oxytocin is a hormone known as the cuddle hormone. So that's what makes a woman bond with her partner, what makes her bond with her child when the child's breastfeeding, etc. Men, on the other hand, are loaded with testosterone, right? So that, as the chap was mentioning earlier about conquering. Mm-hmm. Conquering is all well and good, and ego is all well and good, because everyone's got an ego. The question is whether your ego is out of control, is whether your ego is actually dominating your behavior. That's the issue. So in terms of how men and women interact, inherently they have different expectations, effectively. Doesn't mean that different has to mean conflict, because the differences should in a relationship should actually complement each other, as opposed to causing a clash.
Yeah. all right if we're slightly different, but that makes it work. If that makes it work. Angela Barrows says, why do the panel think that women who are older end up on their own, putting aside losing partners, husbands who've died, just in general? Why do you think they end up being on their own? I want to put my finger in my ears.
Well, generally, or in one sense, it's because as you get older, the pickings become less. I think the pickings is a term that they would use in the USA, you know, but then from an American, from what I've read, because I've never been there and I have no intentions of going there, but
oh, really?
no, I don't want to die doing that.
Okay, don't go into that, Nigel.
But yeah, as you get older, it can get more difficult. And also what I've noticed is that with some mature Black women, they are reluctant to try things like online dating, for example. Online dating seems to have some kind of stigma, which is
because you might know people on there that you know.
Well, you could go to a wine bar and bump into somebody that you know. You might go out on a date with somebody and bump into somebody that you know. It's not any different. The only difference is that the idea of online dating puts in the mind of some people that that person must be desperate. That's where the stigma lies.
True. But some women going to church, and I'm sorry, you Christian ladies out there, but some of them going to church and don't understand that the men in the church are just as much Jezebels as the ones outside. Don't go into church looking for a man, and vice versa.
Well, demons go to church too.
Mark, what do you say?
Do you know what? To tell the truth, I don't know. I don't know why.
But there's older men. Older men get younger women. They never tend to go for younger men, for younger women. Sorry. Older men can always find younger women. Am I right? So probably that's the reason they still have more pickings.
I think it works both ways depending on what country you're in.
Really?
Yeah, I think it can work both ways. I think there's older women who go for younger men, you know.
Cougar.
Not many, and not many, because people are, or women, older women are afraid. I know, I've dated a younger man.
But then that fear comes from judgment. That's where the fear comes from. So if there was no judgment, then you'll be dating men younger than yourself.
Yeah. Gillian Beresford Bernard says older men go for younger women to look after later in life. Yeah, because she's still young, she can look after your hotel.
But again, that could also be an ego thing, because if you're an older guy looking for a young woman, that woman can be viewed by that guy as a trophy to show that he's still got it going on. He can still attract a younger, attractive looking woman. So even that could be an ego boost or motivated by the ego.
If I could jump in on this,
you come and upset the place. Come on, I haven't forgot the last question. I'm coming back to you.
Okay, look, I gotta save Nigel because he's drowning the American audience, and then he's mentioned the Black women. Woo! You gotta walk very carefully on this topic of older Black women in America. Like that could be pretty heavy. But
that's a big topic.
That's a big topic. But here's what I'll say. I think that there is still an appeal for an older woman, right? She just has to change how she sees herself in the dating sexual marketplace. Like she just has to change her value. Like, listen, I don't care who she is. A man is attracted to a feminine woman, right? A man is attracted to. There's something about a feminine woman that attracts men. So that might mean for her. Even I've talked to some before. say, look, change the colors that you wear. There are certain colors that attract a certain kind of men that speak about a woman's femininity, you know? And I get all into it. I got a book coming up called entitled Secrets of the Mind of a Man, where I talk about this, where you put the two things that men love the most. You ladies, you older ladies, y'all write this down. Get your pen out. I'm gonna give you something right here. Okay, look.
I'm not saving you. I'm not saving you.
Don't worry about it. I don't need no saving. I got you on this. Look, right. Look, there's two things that men absolutely love. That's food and sex, right? It's an inborn thing. So you put them two together. She comes out in a nice fitting mango dress, mango colored dress. Now she looks like food, and she's attractive and she's sexy, right? Boom, you got his attention just like that. Okay.
Food. All right. So what have I got on floral today? Flowers. I better go and get some fruit clothes on here.
Yeah. Something solid, something that look like watermelon. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know the psychology of that.
It's true. We are there. There are certain colors that create emotions in people, and for us, like red, you know, a woman in a red dress, and all those that's attractive. And but I'm telling you, you put the food together with the shape and the femininity, boom.
Wow.
You'll be beating them off with a stick.
Okay. All right, Garth, come on. You tell us what you think about that.
I like the color thing. I mean, you know, watermelon colored dress and stuff, mangoes, and you know, I love mangoes. But what, you know, I think it comes right down to something that I recently had a conversation about when it comes to attractiveness. So, you know, we talk about relationships and all these other keys of, you know, that help with successful relationships, but attractiveness is one of them. So it shouldn't matter how old or young you are. There's certain things that would attract certain type of people, certain type of men. It's all based on what your preferences. You know, like if you like older women, you like older women. But the part of it that keeps that interest going, and part of, again, is attraction. Like there is an attraction. You have to have an attraction. And I've been in the health and wellness industry for a long time. I do talk to a lot of men about when they get older, what to expect and what to do and how to take care of themselves. Because, you know, for us to and it's not just being attractive for other people, but just for us to remain in the relationship and to keep things going. And we talk about keeping the fire going and stuff. You have to be attractive. Like, and I'm not saying like being a good looking guy or a beautiful looking woman only, but attraction could come in a lot of different ways. And older women who say, oh, well, you know, older women end up by themselves as they get older. Maybe because you all don't take care of yourself as much. Maybe because you don't pay attention to things you used to pay attention to before. Yeah, and I'll say it because, you know, we like to say, oh, I am attracted to a beautiful mind. Well, if you could see inside my mind, I would love to date you. Because guess what? You cannot see inside my mind. It starts with the exterior. And older women, some older women who take care of themselves are attractive to any type of man. The ones that don't take care of themselves, those are the ones that end up by themselves. And if you think about it, it's an attraction. It's an attraction. Yes. There's somebody who might be attracted. So people are attracted to different things. Like the people who are attracted to a nice smile and nice white teeth, skin, hair color, eyes. Like they're different things. So if you end up by yourself with all these people in the world, then maybe the problem is you. Maybe you are not taking care of yourself to make yourself attractive enough to anybody. Right. And again, if you can, and Sherry, you do not have to defend me on this one, and you do not have to take my back on this one. I'm saying it openly. All relationships need a sense of attraction in them for them to work.
And you're right. You're right. I tell you where you're right. Even in the relationships that are working, you know, there are people in relationships not looking for. You still have to work on your belly. Come on, ladies, you know what I'm saying here. You have to work on your still keeping yourself semi-fit. As you age, there's certain things that don't you know, they go south, as we call it. But you do have to work on keeping yourself fit. And men, because not every woman is comfortable with walking around with a guy with a big belly. Some might like it and say, oh, look at my yummy. But for me, I like fit guys. The men that I've dated are fit guys. So if I was to then look at a man that has a belly, I might draw back a little bit, but that might be being a bit fickle in that attitude. So I'm presuming, ladies, I don't think we can beat them up for saying that. If we think the same way. I heard you lot. They say, look at that beard. Oh God. Lynette says, I don't want no big belly man. No, we do criticize men. I've seen women do it, and we're wrong. Okay, I need to move on to another question, unless I can find Jan Hogan, who's in Wales. What has she said? Sorry, Sherry. The guy in the black t-shirt, that's got to be Garth. Talking tosh. I know a lot of couples where they just adore each other regardless of physical appearance. Mm-hmm. It's got to be deeper than that. I knew you guys was going to get lashed.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good.
I saw a question. I'm going to go back to it. I have to open it. I knew he was going to get lashed. Okay. This lady has written, why do I always choose the narcissist? What is it about me that always choose a narcissist? I mean, this is a proper serious question, because narcissism is, I don't know if it's on the increase, but I'm seeing that word a lot more than ever, and there seem to be a lot more of. It's not just men, women can be narcissists as well. So do you have an explanation for that?
Well, narcissist, that's my specialist subject. The book I'm just finishing, that's taken me 5 years, which is about abusive relationships. I would say that basically there are, in this world, relationship predators. They are men and women who go around preying on individuals. And my advice is always work on yourself, work on your personal boundaries. You've got to have healthy personal boundaries, because relationship predators have certain tactics. So they, for example, love bombing. So for those who don't know what love bombing is, basically it's an excessive amount of attention, lots of gifts, lots of kissing, hugging, etc. I've met my soulmate, or so they'll tell you, etc. But while the person's getting swept off their feet, they are possibly ignoring red flags. And getting into a relationship quickly is very easy. Getting out of a relationship that turns out to be abusive is a whole other ballgame.
Yes.
But there are narcissists. I mean, narcissists are classed as cluster B personality disorders. So if you look at the DSM, which is considered the psychiatric Bible, narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths, they are classified as cluster B personality disorders. And the other thing you have to bear in mind is that a lot of people are walking around out there with undiagnosed personality disorders. Doesn't mean to say you have to be a mental health professional to kind of pay attention if someone's acting a bit off key, but undiagnosed personality disorders are a big issue, especially if you're dealing with a cluster B type.
No, because some people do pick up, if you read in on the threads of a lot of these things about narcissists, you find that people have said they've attracted them more than once. So it's got to be, I have an explanation for it. I think that empaths tend to attract narcissists, because empaths tend to want to help, and narcissists tend to always want to, they come with an issue that you the empath is always trying to help them, looking out for them, but really not understanding that the narcissist has a plan.
They always have a plan. They always have an agenda. In terms of empaths are generally very giving people, individuals, and narcissists, on the other hand, are takers. So if you're dealing with any type of cluster B personality, except borderline personality disorder, their relationships are transactional, which means they're in that relationship for what they can get out of it. They're not in that relationship for love. They're in it for what they can get out of it.
Do they know love?
If I can chime on this, you call them empaths. I call them Florence Nightingales. Yeah. Right. I call it the Florence Nightingale syndrome. You know, oh, I'm coming. This is here goes Jada again. I'm coming to save you, to help you, and make you come back to wholeness. But meanwhile, they're fulfilling their own the cracks and the holes that they have in themselves. Yeah. And so we like to make it seem as if the empaths are and the Florence Nightingales are people who are just doing it out of the kindness of their hearts, but they're not. A lot of times they are just as guilty as the narcissists, as the people that they're serving, you know, and they're getting something. Like, I'm glad Nigel said that. They are getting something out of it. Well, it's nothing else but the warm feeling in their heart that they've saved somebody.
No, I disagree with that, because you are conflating an empath or someone with empathic traits with someone who is codependent, or as the term is now known as self-love deficit disorder. So an empath and someone who is codependent, yes, they may share similar traits in some instances, but they're two different personality types. If you've got a codependent, yes, a codependent will also want to be giving in the relationship at the expense of themselves. But then a codependent has often come from a childhood or a background where they have had to perhaps deal with parents where they had to parent the parent. So if the parent had alcohol problem, a drug problem, etc., that child grows up having to cater to that parent or those parents. Now they become adults and they still have that behavior ingrained in them. So now they meet someone who's an abuser, who again just wants to take, and they, because they're so used as a child being orientated to parent their parent, as it were, that pattern just continues into their relationships. But the empath and a codependent are two different things. They're motivated.
But Nigel, here's my point though. My point is, I don't care if you're empath or like whatever your situation is, no behavior exists unless it's being reinforced. Like, I don't care if it's just a warm feeling. Everybody's getting something out of it.
That depends.
Or it wouldn't happen. You don't do anything unless there's a reward. And sometimes it's just the reward of saying, I helped you. I've done something for humanity, and that's a reward. So no behavior exists unless it's being rewarded.
Rewarded, that's right. Julia Lewis says, is it true that men tend to carry forward experiences learned from a bad relationship into the new one? More than women. So I repeat that again. Is it true that men tend to carry forward experiences learned from a bad relationships into the new one more than women?
I would agree. Generally, I don't like to generalize, but generally I would agree, because going back to this entanglement thing, what I have observed is that when a man cheats on a woman's more likely to forgive. However, if it's the other way around and the woman cheats on the man, he is much less likely to forgive, which again, I suppose goes back to what was mentioned earlier about conquering and territorial, because the man will often feel that his territory has been violated effectively, and a man can find it very difficult to get by that. And to share a personal story briefly, I was married. My wife produced a child. She said that was mine. Turned out the child wasn't mine after a DNA test, and we're going back to 1994.
Ooh.
So in those days, it wasn't like your Jeremy Kyle we have in the UK. That you have a chap in America who does the DNA tests. I can't remember his name now. It wasn't like that in those days. You know, you had to sit down and wait for that envelope to drop. And after that experience, it took me a good 6-7 years to allow myself to be emotionally close or connected to a woman again, because I ended up with a lot of trust issues basically, and which I now obviously I know that wasn't unusual for me. But what I should have done, as I was told at the time, I should have had counselling, etc., before I got the DNA results. So basically what happened with me was I went through a bereavement process, not understanding I was going through a bereavement process. And it didn't just affect me. Obviously, my mum thought she was a grandmother again. My brother's got children, so they thought they had a new cousin. So it wasn't just about me, you know, it affected my whole family effectively. So yes, to cut a long story short, yes, a man will tend to have trust issues if he's had a bad experience.
Nigel, so if I could jump in on this one here. So most men will not tell you this, but I am sorry that you had to go through that. Again, no, I'm saying it because most times we're just like, oh, that's tough, bro. But whatever. So let's do it, right? So that experience is not an experience that anybody would want to go through at all. But to answer the question in terms of if we as men carry experiences from the past more than women, I disagree. I don't think that we do more than women. I think it could even be just the same amount as women. But in terms of say more than, I don't say that we do more than. I think we do not communicate a lot of stuff effectively to the people who we are with in the present. I think we do not talk about it. We don't go sit down with a bunch of guys and have wine and talk about how bad she was to me and what she did and how I felt. We don't do that. But to say more than women, no. I mean, everybody right now on this panel and outside and who's reading and listening and all that stuff, we all have different experiences in our past that affect us and make us who we are right now. How we deal with it, what we reflect on, what we connect the dots to, that's what makes us who we are at present. What makes us who we will become based on what we decide to overcome or deal with. Based on experiences. The journey of life is an experience, one major experience. We don't know when it's going to end. It's just an experience after an experience after an experience. You either become more out of it or you become the same and remain stagnant. So when it comes to men taking it more or carrying it more, some men do carry a lot of experiences from the past and they continue that bad or negative cycle like they would have done based on what was done to them. And Kelvin, you like this part. In the Jada conversation, she said something. He said, "Yeah, I'll get you back," and she said, "I think you did." Right?
He
yeah.
Said it once. He said it twice.
Oh, okay.
He said twice. So he said to affirm his position in terms of you did hurt me. I was hurt. I couldn't talk about it, but I got you back. Again, that's an ego-driven thing. But so I know Kelvin would have liked that part. So I did do my research on it before we came today because she mentioned we're going to talk about entanglement. So that was part of that. But men have not been programmed, and I'm using this word openly, programmed to discuss things that hurt them.
Correct.
We don't cry. We get up. We keep moving. If you're a little girl, we can pick you up. We can tell you be okay, give you something to eat, walk you outside, take you away from everybody else, protect you. Men have not been programmed to do that. Black men have not been programmed in any type of society or community to have conversation, an open conversation about how they feel or what affects them emotionally. So what we do is we do an exterior count. We have an exterior battle-faced, a type of way that we look at stuff. Whereas, listen, I cannot be soft, so I'm going to be tough. And that we carry on that as soon as until we meet somebody that says, hey, it's okay, it's fine. And hardly ever do we as men meet those type of people. So we continue that cycle. So women, they do carry a lot of stuff and you meet them 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, a year, 2 years into your relationship. You meet someone and you find, why are we having all these issues in this relationship? And a lot of it is based on trust. A lot of it is based on what happened to them before. So they do carry it a lot more than we do. Do we communicate as much as we should? No. Are we communicating fully as much as we should? No. And this is why all these things, the Dear Men Project and Black Men Lives Matter and all these things are coming up, because now we're to the point where society is kind of flipping a little bit, where we're like, there is an issue that we are not dealing with. There is an issue that we're not dealing with. And we're not creating the forum for conversations. We're not creating a forum for people to come out and feel comfortable to say how they feel about stuff without being, like Mark said, judged. So the fear comes from not being able to say how I feel because I'm going to be judged about it. And then you are going to take that same thing I just said to you and you're going to use it when you're in a confrontation or when we have an argument and say, you're weak, you're not a real man. Whatever a real man is, I don't know what the dictionary meaning is, or whatever a real man is. So you have to be able to look at the playing field to let us know if we're able to do certain things and comfortable, put us in a position to be comfortable enough to say this, because the one thing we can retreat to is battle. As men, we know how to battle. We know how to take care of ourselves. We know how to fend for ourselves because we've had to. In any community, black, white, whatever, it doesn't matter. Most men are programmed in that type of way. And to switch the program, you have to be able to create an environment for people to want to come and have a conversation. So all these things are started, and I applaud everybody who's on here who could share how they really feel about stuff and not sugarcoat stuff, because it has to take us a level of transparency.
Yeah, and this word forgiveness, I've seen it throughout the thread. We have to learn to forgive forgive is the word, because some of this obviously relates to people's behavior. It could be a parent, something that happened with a parent. I think, Mark, you're able to talk about this. Am I right?
Yes. So basically what I've learned over the years of, finding myself just in general is that the reality of it is, it sounds really crazy, but there is nothing to forgive. What was going on for you was to support you, to help you to become a better version of whoever you was meant to be. Because I find that, it's like me having this glass in my hand and it's full of poison and I'm drinking it hoping that you're going to be sick. The poison's killing me. I'm doing the harm. I'm holding on to the pain. I'm carrying it with me each and every day. And you're the one who I'm hoping that's going to be sick. And until you can understand that and realize that you're not, I would say I speak for myself, things from the past, my parents held on to things. And that's what I was taught. I was taught not to forgive. I never spoke to my dad for over 17, 18 years because of some of the things what he did do. I never spoke to my mom for X amount of time because of some of the things that she did do. And it made me bitter and twisted inside. It made me, and what I realized is that, you know what? I know it's easy to say, but it was a process what I went through. But me letting go made me give myself the bestest gift of life that I could give. Right. Because holding on to it, I'm the one who's dying. I'm the one who's creating dis-ease within myself. So that's why I say that the reality of it is that whatever it is that's happened. But why do we always want to drag it up and put ourselves in that place again?
And take it with us. Yeah, take it with us. You're right. Take it with us in the sense of, and I'm speaking to all of you, emotional baggage and red flags. So I put them in the same bundle. Of things. Emotional baggage is the stuff that you take with you, the stuff that comes from way back with your parents. Sometimes with women, it's to do with our father. I think for me, I had that issue. Every man that I think that I wanted was an image of my father. He was the man that made me laugh. He's the man that did this, but yet he did something that really upset me, and I had to learn to forgive him. But first of all, you have to tell the person why you're going to forgive them, because sometimes they don't know. And I told my father why I was going to forgive him. And I think that helped me to not be angry, because a lot of us take anger from one relationship to another.
I would like to add to that. I'd just like to add to that is that forgiveness really is acceptance. Because until you can accept what's gone on, it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right that, terrible things happened. But the thing is, as humans, what we try to do is we want to be right. That happened to me. So you know what? That should have never happened to me. I'm right. And then you tell everybody. And then what happens? You're the one who's in the pain. You're the one who's carrying it into your relationship. You're the one who's carrying it and bringing it onto your children. But the funny thing is that you don't see it, but everybody else can. Mm-hmm. So until you can accept the forgiveness that you are giving yourself a free gift of life, and that it's not about anybody else. Because what somebody does, half the time when people do things, they don't even know they've done it. They don't even realize they've done it. We could be all upset and vexed with somebody for what? And because we're not telling them, we're like, yes, they should know. They should know. But how are they going to know if we don't even talk to them? So this is the thing with forgiveness. It's about the acceptance to give yourself.
Communication.
If I can chime in on this, I love what Mark is saying there. And I think a lot of this comes from, as we deal with it as men, right? I can remember being a young man, growing up in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and myself and my friends, we literally chose how we were going to walk. Not like how you learn to walk as a kid. You just walk down the street. And many of you guys probably, if you grew up in the city, you understand where I'm going with this. Like, we actually chose how we were going to walk. One kid said, I'm going to walk like this. Another kid, look, and I chose to walk with a real deep bob. It was more like, and it was Sherry Ann, it was for one reason. It was really actually for protection. In our neighborhoods, you had to walk right, or you could become a victim. If you physically walked a certain way, you could become a victim. So we put on all of these airs. It's really just an air. It's an air of toughness. It's an air of don't mess with me, or it's gonna be you're gonna have a bad day. All of these things for protection, and I think men are still protecting themselves. Men still don't have the places where they can release the tension valve and talk about their feelings and talk about just say the words, you hurt my feelings.
Yes.
It's such a simple concept, but it's so, in our societies, it's so unmanly to say that you hurt my feelings. It's better for me to punch you in your face.
Yeah.
Rather than to say, hey, what you said, that hurt my feelings, And so we're in this protective mode, protecting our ego until we get to a place that we realize, you know what? I don't need to protect anything. If you hurt my feelings, guess what I'm going to say? You hurt my feelings.
It's simple. Yeah.
It's simple.
Sorry, I'd just like to add to that, Kelvin. It's like in a sense, you're living a lie outside in.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing. We are literally living the lie outside in. And when you actually think about that, that's just like, wow. Because you're actually lying to yourself every day.
Yeah.
I cry. Men cry. Trust me, I cry when
Men cry too. That's the question. One of the things here, one of the comments that I have on my WhatsApp. Men cry too, and women need to understand that men cry too. Sometimes we want to think, oh, he's just gone off and he's angry and he doesn't love me anymore. But men cry too. They get hurt and they cry. So I want to go on to the final question, because I could keep you all here for days, like you all don't have families, and then you'll be coming to me for relationship therapy. Red flags. Red flags. We touched on it earlier on, but really tell me why people should look out for red flags. What are red flags?
Red flags are warning signs. Red
Warning.
flag behaviors could be someone selfish, they're arrogant. A good red flag to watch out for is someone who always interrupts you, because that basically means they want to dominate the conversation, and sooner or later they're probably going to want to try and dominate you. Obviously, someone who's aggressive, someone who you catch who consistently lies. There's a long list of red flags you can look out for, and obviously you can't walk around with all those red flags in your head constantly, because that's just going to make you paranoid. But it does help to stay alert. And I think the biggest red flag to pay attention to is your own intuition. Something, you may not have any evidence, but if something doesn't feel right or feels off, pay attention to that.
I agree with that one, Nigel. Come on, guys, take it. Whichever one. Garth, I can see you smiling. You got that smirk on your face. What's red flag?
I think in my experience, a red flag, especially with pursuing different things and being in different genres, like, you know, from being the author and trying to do modeling stuff earlier in life and all these other things. I think it's mainly those people who you have to watch how people react when things do not go right. There's this wave that we ride as entrepreneurs, as business people, you know, as authors. We ride this wave where things are going great and everybody's there supporting and everybody's very, very supportive of what you're doing. But there are the times that people don't post on Instagram. There are the times that things are tough. There's times where there's a struggle. Mentally, you're struggling with things. And what I look at when it comes to red flags, when it comes to my relationship or relationships in the past would have been, how do you deal with things when things do not go right? How about when there's no more interviews coming up? How about when there's no more traveling? How about when there's no more booking for a workshop and things are kind of tough? Like, how you deal with that, to me, is either going to be a red flag or a point. Like, you know, it's not really a point system, but you know what I mean. It has to be something like, if you react in a supportive way at that time, that means the most to me. And I think I mentioned earlier, like, you know, like in terms of support, like I've been a driven person for a long time, trying to accomplish a lot of things and accomplishing a lot along the journey. But the parts where things have been very, very challenging, from living in my car at one time, the people who were around, and relationships where those people stick around and want to support you, that's what makes you understand who's there for you and who's not. The red flag comes when things are going good, they're always there. And as soon as things get a little shaky, they're out. And I think that's any relationship, you know. So when I think about a red flag, and I agree with Nigel, intuition is a big thing. You don't have to have proof to feel a certain type of way. You could see some things before they happen if you trust your intuition. You know, and I've seen things happen before it happened and be like, okay, yeah, this doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. And then, you know, you kind of like observe a little bit more. So I think when we talk about red flags in relationships, it has to be an observation of certain things, and it has to be in, when are you observing things? Because like I said, things could go really, really well, and then things could go really, really bad, and it can become tough. And it's who's there to support that matters the most to me. I've been in a lot of situations where things went really, really bad. You know, and then you see people's true colors, and then you see who has really been supporting what you've been doing, and who understands. And I've had things that affected my entire family happen, you know, even up to recently, where I try to be there for a lot of people. And I think you hear a lot of men say this, and when it's time for somebody to be there for me, it's silent. The room is empty, you know. So relationship red flags, pay attention to who's supporting you when things are not popping in the club.
What about you, Kelvin?
Pay attention.
I like that.
Yeah,
No, it's true.
red flags. I think it was Warren Buffett that said, you find out who's swimming naked when the tide goes back.
Right.
Right? You find out what a person really is in times like G said, when things are not going well. But here's something else. when you see, when you hear how a person speaks to other people that they can't do anything for, that's an indication. That's a red flag right there that your time is coming when they think that you can't do anything for them.
Yeah, very true.
When you hear the abusive language, I believe abuse starts with language. Somebody tells you to shut up, and they don't mean it like shut up. They mean like shut up. And you feel that in your gut. Yeah, yes, it's impactful. Like, pay attention to that, because it starts with the language and it'll end with a fist, and it may end with you in a coffin somewhere, you know. So when you hear it, you hear the sound and you feel the emotion, that is a red flag. That is not your imagination. That is your brain and your energy saying danger. Now you can keep going if you want, but it's going to escalate. And you know, for some reason, like, people just have a difficult time breaking up. You know, I need to find somebody who's I want to do a collaboration with somebody who's a breakup expert. Like, most of us do work that helps people find love, right? But there's very few people who major in breaking up and getting away from people that you used to love, and it's no longer working anymore. I'm telling you, it's wide open for that, because there are people who are in prison today because they didn't know how to say goodbye. They didn't know how to separate when it was time to separate and it was over with. When the red flag was no longer a red flag, now the red flag is bloody. It's blood on that flag now. And just because people didn't know how to just let it go, go apart.
Well,
Antigua and Allison, let me just say this bit. Antigua and Allison said, basically she was saying, how do we deal with red flags? Some partners are not willing to acknowledge that they are red flags. I think, Kelvin, you more or less answered that by saying you need to know to walk away, when to walk away. Yes. It's not easy. I mean, you got to do all the things, setting up a plan. You know, you don't do it right away. You create a plan. Not unless it's an emergency, but most of these things are not an emergency. It's you can feel it coming, and you take the actions that you need to take to separate yourself. Almost like going on a trip. You figure out where you're going. Figure out how you're going to get there.
I think when it comes to that, we look at and I keep coming back to Mark with the judgment piece. I think a lot of it is people who are in those situations who are afraid to walk away. They look at the judgment part of it, what people will say after I leave. Society has a great way of making us feel bad. And that's another part where people are afraid to walk away. The other piece of it too is investment. Like, you invest all this time and all of this energy into a relationship, and then, yes, it doesn't make sense. Yes, it's not good for you. And not just in the abusive sense. I agree with you, Kelvin. Like, in that sense, it might be an emergency. It might not be an emergency. You might just need to go. But a lot of times people invest time and energy into relationships, and it's hard to walk away from that. I think as I got older, I've shared this with my son a lot. I've said to him that you should not stay because of what other people think. It's very, very damaging. And you don't damage just everybody else, you damage yourself more than anything else, because that's the experience that you taken into the other relationship or into the other with the other person that you're with. So I think a lot of it comes from the judgment from people around you. That's one. If your family gets to know her, and it's the men's forum, so if your family gets to know her or him or whatever, and they like them, you now say, hey, I broke up, I left. Yeah. There's some judgment that comes there. There's some conversation, and you want to get away from that. You don't want to be that. And then the investment in terms of time and energy, like, nobody wants to know that they invest something and they're gonna lose. Yeah. No, but not just it didn't work. They're gonna lose. If I invest right now in Apple, and the entire thing crashes tomorrow, I'll be like, yeah, I should have invested in the vaccines, but that's another topic. But yeah, and you don't want to lose that, and that's and that's a part where, like, I think a lot of people have that problem. So that's
you got to.
Yeah,
You just got to consider which loss is greater.
Exactly.
Because you could lose your life.
Right, and that's why I say it is the judgment part of it, and then people, they judge themselves, like, should I stick around and see if it works? And then this big word of hope. We hope people change. Nobody's gonna change.
Change. They don't change at all. Angela
don't.
Barrows says, are there high expectations of you as men because you are relationship coaches? Is it that easy for everybody else?
No, not at all. I mean, I've had my experiences. I've had a couple of experiences since I published my book. I've spoken with psychologists. I've had several therapists and coaches on my podcast series, and they've had their fair share of relationship disasters. So people shouldn't assume because someone's a relationship coach, even a certified coach, because there are a lot of coaches walking around saying they're coaches and are not even certified or qualified or anything. But no, a relationship failure can happen to anybody. It's not a question of what your occupation is. And anyone can have a failed relationship. It's just part of life.
Part of life, I get that. Guys, we've been on here for an hour and a half, and
have we?
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know what? I really enjoyed this. It's the first time somebody wrote this somewhere in the text here saying, thank you, Sherry. This is the first time that I've had like a discussion with all men. And, I think that person said good men. I can't get back in the thread. You guys could go and read that afterwards. But it's nice to actually have sensible men, probably she meant when she said good. Sensible men. It's actually really nice to have opinions because you didn't actually all agree with each other. So you're completely different. I thank you for taking up the mantra, for coming and discussing with me, just a mere woman, as you guys would say. But I wanted to say...
You wouldn't say that, Sherry. No.
I wouldn't say that either.
No, I wouldn't say that.
The messages after that. But it's been nice. Will you come back?
Yeah.
Oh, certainly.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
For sure.
Kelvin, I didn't hear you answer.
Absolutely.
See, that was called indirect bullying. There's so much to discuss. I mean, obviously we touched on little bits, and I'm sure that people really, maybe the next time we'll have direct questions, not just a general question. We might debate something, just maybe the guys can send some questions, or knowing them, they'll make statements, but not same questions. But it was, Emmanuel Boller says it was an awesome conversation. Mon Taylor says, yes, this was really refreshing. Santaline says, hi, Sharon, next week have them back on again. No, they have live. They have live. But I will bring them back. No, truly, it was a lovely panel, and I wanted to thank you. Before I go, though, I want each one of you to tell people how to, how to get hold of you. They might want to follow you, liaise with you. So just tell people your social media, or how can they get hold of you? Start with Mark.
Okay.
I can see it, like I'm waiting for the teacher to tell me. Come on.
I just want to share with everybody else, and that's what's about. So really and truly, anybody who wants to get to know me, they can look on my Facebook page. It's just Mark Harris. I don't post on a regular. I'm going to be honest with you. I prefer to have conversations with people. You can either drop me an email at theforgivenesslifecoach.com. Sorry, it's the email address. No, it's the email. The email address is theforgivenesslifecoach@gmail.com. Just drop me a message, and then we can have, arrange the time to have a conversation and just see what happens and see what shows up from there.
Perfect. Thank you, Garth. G.
All right. So social media on Instagram, simple name, I am Garth Voisin. That's Voisin. Facebook, it will be the same thing. The DMN Project website, you can go on there. There's ways to contact me on the DMN Project website. So it'll be www.dmnproject.com. And again, it's just, trying to encourage people to join.
DMN. I never
What was
knew
that?
about that one, the DMN project.
Yes. So I took some time off in January to create the website. So it took me like about 22 days to create the website, but it was mainly to put stuff out there to share the journey with other men and to create a forum for the men and those people who love them, like yourself, Sherry.
Yes, of course. The journey still continues.
Yes, ma'am.
You thought I forgot. I interviewed Garth years ago on the Sherry Dixon show on Bang, and at that time he was saying he was more than just the flesh, because he had this picture out there with his body with ripples, but he was trying to tell the ladies, I'm more than just this. So I'm glad.
10 years after, Sherry. 10 years after, we're still going strong. It really does continue. Yes.
Oh, how wonderful. See, I keep in touch with my friends. Nigel.
Email Beckles, which is my surname, so Beckles 13 digits @hotmail.com. You'll find me on Facebook, LinkedIn. In fact, if you just Google my name or Google Nigel Beckles,
I like that.
I'm very easy to find, trust me.
Just Google my name. I like that. just Google my name. Okay, Kelvin.
All right. You guys can follow me at Kelvin Troy Johnson everywhere, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as Love Coach Atlanta on Instagram. I put a lot of content out on join our Love Coach community, Love Coach Atlanta community, as well as you can just click my name there. And if any of your listeners, Sherry Ann, are really having a challenge with love and trying to understand their love situation, I will offer your listeners a free 15-minute consultation. We'll just discuss your situation briefly. I'll give you a quick answer, or we can do a full one-on-one love coach session, and we can get that going. So you guys can also check out my YouTube channel, Secrets of the Mind of a Man, where I talk about how men think when it comes to dating, relationships, and love.
You're going to have them flooding over there, the mind of a man. Oh, my God, that's a hard one.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I've covered everybody, haven't I? Thank you. I can't say thank you enough. You promised, you said it openly here, that you will come back again, and you can see from the thread that they say really enjoyed this session. The men did a great job. Simona Malcolm says that. Julian says, okay, she's ready. So I'll bring you back on again, all right? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherry Ann.
Go
Thank you,
and
Sherry Ann.
have lunch. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.